So just as we're setting up my presentation, it's, thank you for being here. I don't know how I drew this straw that I'm the last presentation in an evening panel on a Friday night in Addis. But I'd like to share with you, some of this is sort of a personal journey. Many of you know me, I spent many years in the CGIAR. I was one of the founding architects, I guess, under Harvest Plus, Howdy Buis and his wonderful vision. Thank you. And in doing so I was with the CG for a long time, developing and breeding in micronutrients into staple foods, very much looking at the development of a new technology. And I was sitting in an ag institute trying to get nutrition into the agenda, and now I'm in a nutrition institute bringing agriculture in. It's equally as challenging. But GAIN is a bit different, and some people in the room I think were even at the founding and the creation of GAIN. About 10 years ago, a group of donors came together and said, we need to put nutrition in a single spot. FAO had a piece of nutrition, WHO had a piece of nutrition, WFP, but let's put one organization that solely focuses on nutrition, and in particular looks at delivery, and recognizes that the private sector or markets can actually get us the reach and coverage that we might not be getting through the public distribution, specifically and only public distribution of nutrition interventions. So GAIN definitely comes at this from a market-based approach. So when I came on 3 years ago, I definitely began to look at diversity of the diet as one of the key interventions that perhaps we could do through agriculture. But there are a couple challenges we face, and I don't need to talk about micronutrient malnutrition with you folks. You all are some of the world's experts. But we know that we have real clear challenges with this diversified diet approach. The poor eat largely staples. They're affordable. So as we look at diversifying the diet, we have a challenge. How do we bring down the price of a diversified diet? We need to put all of our heads around that. We also have this very odd marriage of agriculture with nutrition. Nutrition thinks along life cycles. Agriculture thinks along supply chains. So for me, when I look at a supply chain of any food, I automatically come to the conclusion of we need to understand not just supply chains for populations, but for mothers and children. And then we come to the very particular question, where are moms sourcing their foods for babies? This is a big challenge, and we need to take a look at that market. Because, in fact, studies we've done at GAIN now, in very rural areas of Kenya, in the north, in the south, now in Ghana, and now we've been asked to do them in Tanzania as well, is showing that farmer mothers are sourcing her foods from markets. She is not growing them for her baby. It's entirely seasonal. She's absolutely reliant on the market for those infant foods. So it's critical that we take a look at the market and resilience. I'm going to quickly go through this. This is an argument for dietary diversity. I think Thomas Dubois would agree with me entirely that there's no better delivery system for nutrition because of the food matrix and the number of nutrients one can get and the promoters and the inhibitors in a food matrix. Food is one of the best, and if not the best, delivery system. But again, affordability will hit us. So when we look at this mapping the sources for the foods for the undernourished, we can take this supply chain. I think at this conference we've been mostly focusing on on-farm consumption when we look to nutrition resilience. But in fact, people are using markets. The local markets, the formal markets, the public distribution systems, and depending upon where you're sourcing the food, that value chain gets longer. So those are opportunities, or they're obstacles that you need to overcome depending upon the length of the supply chain. Now, we tend to, in nutrition, have entered the supply chain at sort of the industrial food processing phase. So clearly fortification starts there. Whether it's fortifying wheat flours or oils, we start to enter the supply chain at sort of halfway up. But a big question, the big question I have, and what we first found is that there are opportunities to engage in nutrition along the value chain if, moving back through the seeds, through biofortified seeds, let's get those horticultural seed systems moving better. So we can diversify the diet. What about putting zinc in fertilizer? Can we increase the nutritional density? There are opportunities through agriculture. And there is actually an entire sector dedicated to the beginning of the supply chain. That's the agriculture sector. But as we start to move up the supply chain, who owns industrial food processing, distribution, transport, and trade? Who owns food retail and marketing? What's the sector that can focus on the policy side, on the investment side, to take care of this very critical part of the supply chain that's sourcing foods, and for us, for mothers and children? So these are the actors in the private sector that drive the value chain. You know, farmers, they're private sector, they're looking for markets. We obviously have the fertilizer industries moving up, commodity storage, commodity industries, millers. Bart gave us a really good idea of some of the transformation that's happening in the milling industry. But in order to help the ERICs of the world, we need to first recognize that an enormous amount of food for the undernourished is going through companies just like ERICs, small and medium scale industries. These are feeding people in urban areas. These are feeding people in peri-urban areas. These are feeding people in rural areas. It's the ERICs we need to enable. We need policy that helps them. We need investments that help them. We need to recognize their role in the food system. So a bit of a commercial for how GAIN is trying to help folks like ERIC. We've developed something called the Marketplace for Nutritious Food. And in the marketplace, we bring together small and medium-scale enterprises, all looking to bring nutritious foods to market. And we have a community of practice where we provide training and information sessions. We provide opportunities for those entrepreneurs to interact with government, with bureaus of standards, to do training in labeling, in packaging. We also provide business support through grants and technical assistance. But a critical piece is that we bring the investors to the table. We bring the private capital to the table to work with these entrepreneurs, and we at GAIN ready them for private investment. So as I said, we have these trainings and seminars, policy dialogues, networking. And just to give you an idea, as of December, we launched this marketplace about 18 months ago in Kenya, Tanzania, and Mozambique. We'll be doing it in Rwanda very shortly. We've got, over nearly 300 members. Actually, these are old. This is December. We're up to about 500 members across those 3 countries. And we have several convenings. In addition to doing the community of practice, these companies, these enterprises can submit concept notes into our Marketplace for Nutritious Foods. We vet them by a group of nutritionists, local production specialists, but people with business acumen. Are these actually viable businesses? And what can we do to help them become? So we've actually now shortlisted, and so I'm sharing with you a kind of the list that we've got going and where we'll be providing support. And what's very surprising, quite frankly, is that it's doing exactly what we need to do for diversifying diets. We are getting concepts that are everything from poultry to fish to vegetables to fruit saplings to day-old chicks. We're to diversify the diet, but we're also doing the whole value chain. We're getting needs for coolers. We're getting needs for more inputs. So we seem to be hitting the needs of these enterprises all as they move from field to the consumer's mouth. So a couple. Eric, in full disclosure, is one of our recipients. The grant that we'll be giving him will help him with refrigeration trucks, coop feeders, drinking machines for the poultry, but also technical assistance in business. A lot of these companies need to be readied for investment. One of the things we do is we award a marketable, bankable business plan. We work very closely hand in hand with the entrepreneurs so that they will be able to get investment, and we help ready them for investors. We will connect Eric with Root Capital. We will connect Eric with other investors, whether they be international social investment or local banks or even angel investors in their countries. Another very interesting concept is a company called Mzima King. Mzima King, and this is a very interesting concept that continues through all of the entrepreneurs. Affordable, small packages for the base of the pyramid. Mzima King is an on-demand milk dispenser. that sits in the slums just outside Kibera. So a mom could come and put in 5 shillings and get exactly the milk she needs for the day. She doesn't need to buy a liter. She doesn't have refrigeration. She needs on-demand milk for her family for that day, for the moment, similar to what Eric is doing. There's a very common theme here: packaging size and on-demand for what the poor can afford. This is just a couple of the investors we have at our side. We have partners from Root Capital, the IFC we're working with. We have our own investment funds. GAIN has set up, is about to set up its GAIN Food and Nutrition Security Fund, a nutrition credit facility that we're working on establishing, where these entrepreneurs were able to come and get some investment. You know, banks don't, these are risky folks. Banks don't necessarily like to lend, but we can provide a credit facility whereby we can de-risk that a bit, or provide credit that allows a bank and de-risks it for the bank itself. So, some examples of these credit facilities, if you're not familiar with them, the various funds. The GAIN Fund, GAIN works with the IFC on a nutrition trust fund, and that provides over $2 million. Those are for very large enterprises working with nutritious foods. LGD Philanthropy ordinarily provides between $250,000 and $2 million. Root Capital, and there's other investment funds. So at any rate, if I leave you with anything, I think what we really need to do is take a look beyond productivity at the resilience of markets. Because if your markets aren't working, if Eric can't move his product to the poor, the resiliency and productivity, where it matters, it's not going to get to the people who need it. Thank you.